The world fears silence. It fears the empty room, the quiet path, and the man who stands without a crowd. They call it loneliness. They pity it. But for the chosen, this isolation is not a prison, it is a sanctuary. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how hard you try to fit in, the universe pulls you back into the shadows? It's because you cannot hear the voice of your destiny while the world is screaming in your ear. You walk alone not because you aren't wanted, but because you are being refined. The crowd gives you comfort, but the desert gives you strength. Most men are reflections of their friends. They think the same thoughts, speak the same lies, and share the same fears. But the man who walks alone has no one to mimic. He is forced to invent himself. When you are alone, you aren't just waiting, you are under construction. The solitude is the forge, and the silence is the hammer. This is where your ego dies and your purpose is born. The ultimate irony of the chosen man is this: he walks alone so that he can eventually show others the way. He does not stay in the cave forever. He returns. But when he returns, he is different. He is in the world, but not of it. He can stand in a crowd of thousands and still remain centered in his own silence. He no longer seeks a tribe. He becomes the lighthouse that the tribe looks for. You were never lost in the woods. You were the one finding the path for everyone else. The world is terrified of a man who can sit in a room alone and be at peace. Soci. Thank you is built on the noise of the collective. From the moment you are born, you are taught to belong, to fit, and to merge. They tell you that loneliness is a disease, a mark of the unwanted. But they are lying to you, for the chosen isolation is not a punishment. It is a consecration. If you find yourself standing apart, if you feel a strange distance between yourself and the people you once called, friends, do not be afraid. You are not being rejected. You are being quarantined. You are being separated because the work the divine has for you cannot be performed in the presence of those who are satisfied with being ordinary. The chosen man walks alone because his destination is a place where a crowd cannot fit. It is a law of the spirit, frequency. When you begin to wake up your internal frequency changes. You no longer resonate with the low vibration static of the world. You can no longer participate in shallow gossip or the soul-crushing grind without feeling a fire in your gut. This mismatch is the first sign of your calling. You are being called to a higher mountain. At the base it is crowded. But as you climb into the thin air of truth, there is only room for one set of footprints. Here is a painful period called the Great Pruning. This is when the people you love start to drift away. It feels like loss, but it is actually divine surgery. The universe is removing the distractors and the energy vampires. It is asking you, who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when there is no applause? You must stay in the silence until the ego dies. You must stay in the isol. Asian until you no longer need the world to tell you who you are. Isolation is the training ground for power. Moses was in the desert for 40 years. Jesus faced the wilderness. The Buddha sat alone under the tree. If you cannot handle the silence of a room, you cannot handle the weight of a crown. Stop looking for the exit from your solitude and start looking for the lesson in it. Your lone lines is a sacred boundary. Most men spend their lives trying to avoid resistance. But the chosen man realizes that hardship is the forge. You are currently on the anvil of the divine. Every strike of the hammer is meant to knock off the rust of your old mediocre self. You aren't just passing time, you're under construction. In the forge, you experience the death of the ego. This is painful because the ego wants to be liked, but the soul wants to be free. You stop asking why they don't like you and start asking why you ever cared. You realize your value is intrinsic gold, not a market price determined by others. You take your power back from the crowd. While the rest of the world is scrolling, the chosen man is in his lab. This is your mental fortress. You embrace physical mastery because a weak mind cannot live in a weak body. You seek intellectual mastery by consuming books that challenge you. You seek spiritual mastery through stillness. People will say you've changed like it's a bad thing. What they really mean is, I can no longer control you. Through this, you gain emotional sovereignty. You become like a mountain. Clouds and storms come and go, but the mountain does not move. Why, a little buffer between what happens to you and how you react. You become unshakable because your foundation is built on the solid rock of your own character. The forge gives you the vision. When you are in the crowd, your view is blocked. When you stand alone on the ridge of your own development, you see the horizon. You see opportunities where others see obstacles. You receive the blueprints for a life that hasn't been lived yet. The isolation hasn't broken you, it has tempered you into hardened steel. The greatest test is not how you survive the desert, but how you survive the return to the city. The world will try to pull you back into your old skin, but they are talking to a ghost. The man who returns is a stranger to them. You are returning not to fit in, but to be the lighthouse. For those who are still lost, when the chosen man returns, he leads through presence. There is a weight to a man who has mastered solitude. You don't need to shout to be heard. Because you are detached from the outcome, you can speak the truth without fear. You become a pillar. In times of chaos, people will naturally gravitate toward you because they are starving for the stability you possess. Your struggle was never a private hobby. It was a preparation for service. Every scar you earned in the dark is now a map for someone else. You become the mentor, the builder, and the creator. You use your forged character to plant seeds of change. You walk alone so that one day others won't have to be so afraid of the dark. The ultimate mastery is being in the busiest city and still remaining in why. Our sacred isolation internally. The mountain is now inside you. You can engage with the world and love the world, but you never belong to it. You are a permanent resident of the Spirit. You are your own tribe. You can walk with kings or the broken without losing your center. Conclusion. Why does a chosen man always walk alone? He walks alone in part 1 to hear the voice of the divine. He walks alone in part 2 to forge a character of steel. He walks alone in part 3 to lead with a light that doesn't depend on the world's fuel. Your isolation is your invitation. Your loneliness is your liberation. The world has enough followers. It is starving for someone who has the courage to be a self. The man who walks with himself walks with God. And a man who walks with God is never truly alone. The tray. Formation is complete. Now go and light up the world. History does not remember the man who stayed in the comfort of the village. History remembers the man who went into the wilderness. Moses was a shepherd in the desert for 40 years before he led a nation. Jesus faced the tempter in the silence of the wilderness before his ministry began. The Buddha sat alone under the tree, rejecting the kingdom to find the truth. Marcus Aurelius found his power not in the Senate, but in the private pages of his journals at night. Isolation is the training ground for power. If you cannot handle the silence of a room, you cannot handle the weight of a crown. If you cannot lead your own mind when you are alone, you will never be able to lead a movement. The universe is testing your sovereignty. Asking you, if I take away your status, your friends, and your social life, do you still have a spine? Do you still have a soul? If your answer is yes, then you are ready. So, if you are walking alone today, hold your head high. Stop looking for the exit from your solitude. Start looking for the lesson in it. The loneliness you feel is actually a sacred boundary. It is the universe's way of saying, I am doing something new in this man. Do not disturb him. You are being forged. You are being sharpened. You are being prepared for a purpose so large that the people around you wouldn't even be able to comprehend it. The crowd is a place of comfort, but the lonely path is the place of power. Accept the silence. Embrace the distance. The man who can walk alone is the only man who sees and truly lead. This is only the beginning. The forge is hot. The transformation has started. Most men are looking for an escape. They look for the easiest path, the quickest shortcut, and the loudest party. They spend their lives trying to avoid the one thing that can actually save them, resistance. But the chosen man is different. He realizes that the very thing the world calls suffering, the lawn, nights, the early mornings, the physical strain, and the mental silence, is actually the forge. You are currently on the anvil of the divine. Every hardship you face while you are alone is a strike of the hammer meant to knock off the rust of your old, mediocre self. You aren't just passing time in isolation. You are under construction. And the first thing you must learn is that a man who can. O.T. Master himself will always be a slave to those who can. In the first part of your journey, you realized you were alone. In this second part, you must realize why you were afraid of it. You were afraid of being alone because you were addicted to the self that other people created for you. You were the funny guy, the reliable friend, the successful employee, but in the forge, those titles mean nothing. The universe strips you of your social masks until you are forced to look at the raw, unfiltered truth. This is the death of the ego. It is a painful process because the ego wants to be liked, but the soul wants to be free. In this stage, you stop asking, why don't they like me, and start asking, why did I ever care if they did? You begin to see that the need for approval was a chain. Every time you sought validation from the crowd, you gave them a piece of your power. In the forge, you take that power back. You realize that your value isn't a market price determined by others. It is an intrinsic gold that, you must mine from within your own heart.